Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you for a minute. I need you to hear this with your heart, not just your ears, because too many people out here are tired, confused, and frustrated, running behind somebody who ain't even running toward them. And I'm here to tell you something real today. If you want to stay on his mind, you do not have to chase him. Chasing never created desire. Chasing only creates distance. Ladies and gentlemen, let me slow this thing down and talk to you real clear, because this right here is where most people get it wrong. Presence is more powerful than pursuit. I want you to really sit with that, because we live in a world that tells you if you want something, you go after it, you push harder, you show more effort. That works in business, that works in goals, but in relationships, especially when it comes to matters of the heart, pursuit done the wrong way will cost you everything. See, presence is not about how often you show up. It's about how you are felt when you do. A woman can be around a man all day long and still not be on his mind. Another woman can walk into a room for 5 minutes, speak with confidence, bring peace, laugh, and walk away, and that man will be thinking about her all week. That's presence. That's energy. That's impact. When you pursue too hard, you rob yourself of that power. You start over-explaining. You start adjusting. You start trying to prove why you are worthy of attention. And the moment you do that, you change the dynamic. Now you are chasing validation instead of standing in your value. A man doesn't stay thinking about what's always available. He thinks about what felt different, what felt calm, what felt strong without effort. Presence means you are fully yourself without forcing connection. You are not auditioning. You are not convincing. You are not begging someone to see what you already know about yourself. When you walk away from a conversation knowing you were authentic, respectful, and grounded, you leave something behind. Not confusion, not pressure, but curiosity. Let me tell you something about men. Men are problem solvers. When everything is handed to us with no resistance, no space, no challenge, there is nothing to solve. But when a woman is secure enough to enjoy a moment and then go back to her life, the mind starts working. He starts replaying the conversation. He remembers the way you listened without interrupting, the way you didn't rush to fill silence, the way you didn't demand promises that weren't ready to be made. Presence is powerful because it doesn't chase a reaction. It allows one. And reactions that come naturally are always stronger than reactions that are forced. When you pursue, you push him into a corner where he feels pressure. When you stand present, you give him room to step forward on his own. Too many people think staying on someone's mind means constant communication. No, it doesn't. It means meaningful connection. One real conversation will outweigh 10 shallow ones. One moment of peace will outweigh days of emotional chaos. A man will always remember how he felt around you. Did he feel calm or controlled? Did he feel respected or rushed? Did he feel free or trapped? Presence is also about boundaries. When you know when to leave, when to pause, when to say, I'm busy. Without guilt, you show emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is attractive. It signals that you are not desperate for attention, but selective with your time. That alone elevates how you are seen. Let me say this clearly. You don't stay on his mind by being everywhere. You stay on his mind by being intentional, by not oversharing too soon, by not making him the center of your universe before he's earned that position. When you pursue, you lean forward too far. When you stay present, you stand upright. Presence also requires confidence in silence. Silence scares people who need reassurance, but silence is powerful when you are secure. Silence allows reflection. Silence gives space for desire to grow. When you don't rush to fill every gap, you allow his thoughts to fill them for you. A woman with presence doesn't rush outcomes. She understands timing. She knows that real connection cannot be forced or hurried. She allows things to unfold naturally, trusting that what is meant for her will move toward her without her having to chase it down. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. If you stop pursuing and he disappears, he was never held by your presence to begin with. And that's not a loss, that's information. Presence attracts what is aligned and repels what is not. Chasing keeps the wrong things around longer than they should stay. When you lead with presence, you are saying, this is who I am. take it or leave it. And that statement, without words, is powerful. It commands respect. It shifts the balance. It lets the other person decide to rise or remove themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, the strongest people in relationships are not the ones who chase love. They are the ones who allow love to recognize them. Presence is calm. Presence is confident. Presence is patient. And when you master that, you don't have to chase anyone. The right one will already be looking for you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak to your spirit for a moment, because this second point is where true power is born. Self-worth creates curiosity. And I need you to understand this deeply, not on a surface level, but at the core of who you are. A man does not become curious about someone who is unsure of themselves. He becomes curious about someone who knows their value and lives like they know it. Self-worth is not something you announce. You don't have to tell a man, I know my worth. In fact, the more you say it, the less it shows. Self-worth is demonstrated in how you move, how you speak, what you tolerate, and what you walk away from without drama. It's in the way you don't overreact to small things. It's in the way you don't beg to be chosen. It's in the way you don't compete with anyone for attention. A woman with self-worth does not rush to secure a man's interest. She doesn't fear silence. She doesn't panic when a text isn't returned immediately, because her identity is not tied to someone else's response. And that independence is powerful. When a man senses that your happiness does not depend on him, something shifts in his mind. He starts to wonder why. He starts to pay attention. Curiosity is triggered when a man realizes he cannot control your emotions with minimal effort. If every action he takes gets an immediate reaction, there is no mystery. But when your response is balanced, calm, and rooted in self-respect, it makes him lean in. He wants to understand you. He wants to know what you're thinking. He wants to know what makes you tick. Self-worth also shows up in standards. Standards are not demands. Standards are personal rules you live by whether anyone is watching or not. When you don't bend those standards just to keep someone interested, you send a strong message. You are not afraid of losing what isn't aligned. And that fearlessness is attractive. Let me tell you something real. Men are drawn to women who respect themselves because we understand, consciously or not, that a woman who respects herself will expect respect from us. And that raises the level of the relationship. It challenges us to do better, to be more intentional, to show up correctly. A woman without self-worth will overgive. She will over-explain. She will tolerate inconsistency just to avoid being alone. But a woman with self-worth understands that being alone is better than being undervalued. She would rather have peace than confusion. And that choice alone changes how she is perceived. Self-worth also means you don't chase clarity from someone who is giving you mixed signals. Mixed signals are a clear answer. When a man sees that you don't linger in uncertainty, that you don't hang around hoping things will change, it plants a seed. He realizes you are not someone he can keep on the shelf. Curiosity grows when effort is required. When a man knows he must show consistency, communication, and respect to keep access to you, he becomes more engaged. Not because you are playing games, but because you are protecting your value. A woman who knows her worth doesn't threaten to leave. She simply leaves when the line is crossed. And that silence speaks louder than arguments ever could. It leaves a mark. It creates reflection. It makes a man replay moments and question his choices. Self-worth is also deeply connected to how you speak about yourself. When you don't belittle yourself, when you don't joke about your insecurities, when you don't seek reassurance constantly, you project confidence. And confidence is magnetic. It doesn't chase, it attracts. Let me be clear. Self-worth does not make you cold. It makes you clear. You can be kind, warm, loving, and still have boundaries. In fact, boundaries make love safer, not harder. They tell people how to treat you. When you live from self-worth, you don't try to stay on someone's mind. You naturally do. Because your absence feels different. Your presence feels earned. And your energy feels rare. And here's the truth. The right man will not be mediated by your self-worth. He will be inspired by it. He will rise to meet it. And if he doesn't, he was never meant to have access to you in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about something that sounds simple but is deeply misunderstood. Space allows desire to grow. And I know for some people, space feels like danger. It feels like distance. It feels like you might lose someone if you stop holding on so tightly. But the truth is, holding on too tight is often the very thing that pushes people away. Desire cannot breathe in a crowded space. Attraction needs air. When you are always available, always responding, always adjusting your schedule, there is no room for longing. There is no room for imagination. There is no room for appreciation. And without appreciation, desire fades. Space is not silence with anger behind it. Space is not manipulation. Space is not playing hard to get. Space is simply allowing life to happen without forcing closeness. It's trusting that what is real does not need to be constantly monitored. Let me help you understand how the male mind works. A man values what he has to pursue. When there is space, his mind starts filling in the gaps. He wonders what you're doing. He remembers how you made him feel. He compares the calm he had with you to the noise he feels elsewhere. That reflection doesn't happen when you are always right there. When you give space, you are not disappearing. You are repositioning. You are saying, I have a full life and you are welcome in it, but you are not the center of it. That message, whether spoken or not, shifts the dynamic. It removes pressure. It restores balance. Too many people confuse space with rejection, but space, when healthy, is an invitation. It invites effort. It invites intentionality. It invites pursuit that is natural, not forced. A man who wants you will step into that space. A man who doesn't will drift away. And that outcome saves you time, energy, and heartache. Desire grows when something is not guaranteed. When access is earned, it is appreciated. When access is automatic, it is taken for granted. Space introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty fuels interest, not insecurity, not chaos, but healthy uncertainty. Let me be clear. Space does not mean ignoring someone you care about. It means not overextending yourself. It means not responding from anxiety. It means not filling every silence because you are uncomfortable with waiting. Waiting, when done with confidence, is powerful. A woman who is comfortable with space sends a strong signal. She trusts herself. She trusts the process. She is not afraid of losing someone who is not aligned with her. That calm confidence is attractive. It makes a man lean in, not pull away. Space also allows a man to feel his emotions without interference. When you are always there managing, fixing, explaining, he never has to sit with his feelings. But when you step back, he feels the absence. And absence, when paired with positive memory, creates longing. Let me say that again. Absence plus positive memory creates longing. If every interaction is peaceful, respectful, and genuine, your absence will be felt deeply. But if interactions are filled with pressure, complaints, and demands, space will feel like relief. That's why how you show up matters just as much as when you step back. Space also protects your dignity. It keeps you from saying things you'll regret. It keeps you from overinvesting too soon. It allows you to observe actions instead of chasing words. When you slow down and create space, you see the truth more clearly. A woman who understands space does not rush connection. She allows consistency to reveal character. She doesn't confuse intensity with intimacy. She understands that real desire grows steadily, not explosively. And here's something important. Space teaches you patience. Patience strengthens your emotional discipline. It keeps you from making decisions rooted in fear. And decisions made without fear are usually the right ones. When you stop filling every gap, you allow him to fill them. When you stop initiating everything, you allow him to show effort. When you stop chasing closeness, you allow desire to move towards you naturally. Ladies and gentlemen, space is not about distance, it's about respect. Respect for yourself, respect for timing, and respect for the process. And when space is handled with confidence and grace, desire doesn't die. It grows. Ladies and gentlemen, let me finish this the right way, because this last point is where most people lose control of themselves. Consistency beats desperation every single time. And I need you to understand this, because desperation is loud, emotional, and exhausting, while consistency is quiet, stable, and unforgettable. Desperation shows up when you are afraid to lose someone. It shows up in double texts, over-explaining, accepting excuses, and lowering standards just to keep someone around. And the problem with desperation is not just how it makes you look, but how it makes you feel. You stop being yourself. You start operating from fear instead of confidence. Consistency, on the other hand, is rooted in self-control. It's showing up the same way whether someone is watching or not. It's not changing your behavior based on how much attention you're getting. It's being calm when things are good and still calm when things feel uncertain. And that steadiness is powerful. A man does not trust chaos. He may be entertained by it for a moment, but he does not commit to it. What earns a place in his mind is reliability, emotional stability, knowing what to expect when he shows up. Consistency creates safety, and safety creates attachment. Let me explain something important. When your mood, your effort, and your energy rise and fall based on how he treats you that day, you hand over your power. One good text lifts you up. One late reply ruins your peace. That emotional roller coaster is desperation, and it will wear both of you out. Consistency means you don't punish someone with silence, but you also don't reward inconsistency with unlimited access. You respond with the same level of respect you expect. You don't disappear dramatically, and you don't overextend emotionally. You stay centered. A woman who is consistent doesn't threaten to leave every time she's uncomfortable. She doesn't create drama to get reassurance. She communicates clearly, then watches actions. And if those actions don't align, she adjusts her availability without anger or explanation. That kind of behavior stays on a man's mind because it's rare, it's mature, it forces reflection. He knows where he stands with you, but he also knows access to you is not guaranteed if effort disappears. Desperation tries to secure the future too quickly. Consistency lets the future reveal itself. Desperation says, please choose me. Consistency says, show me who you are. And those two energies create very different outcomes. Let me say this plainly. You cannot scare the right man away with consistency, but you will expose the wrong man with it. A man who only shows up when it's convenient will struggle with a woman who expects steady effort. A man who thrives on attention without responsibility will be uncomfortable with someone who doesn't chase him. Consistency also builds trust. When your words match your actions over time, it creates credibility. You don't have to convince anyone of your intentions, they feel it. And trust is what makes a man think about you even when you're not around. A woman operating from desperation tries to control outcomes. A woman operating from consistency allows outcomes to form naturally. She understands that rushing connection does not create commitment. Stability does. Consistency also protects your self-respect. You don't wake up questioning why you said too much or did too much. You don't replay conversations wishing you had held back. You move with intention, and that gives you peace. And peace is attractive. Peace is memorable. Peace lingers in the mind long after excitement fades. A man will remember how steady you were when things were uncertain, how you didn't panic, how you didn't beg, how you stayed true to yourself. Let me tell you something real. A man may forget what you wore. He may forget what you said word for word, but he will never forget how you handled yourself when you could have lost control and didn't. Consistency means you don't try to win someone over with effort they didn't earn. You give energy where energy is returned. You don't chase interest. You respond to it. And when a man sees that you are not easily shaken, not easily impressed, and not easily manipulated by inconsistency, something happens. Respect grows. And where respect grows, desire follows. Ladies and gentlemen, desperation fades quickly. Consistency stays. It builds slowly, but it builds strong. And when someone thinks about you, it won't be because you chased them into choosing you. It will be because you showed them what calm strength looks like, and they didn't want to lose access to that.